What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Popcorn People podcast. We are back after a 2 week hiatus. So much craziness going on in our lives. It is the thick of award season, which means we're watching movies non-stop right now. I think in the last 2 weeks alone, I've consumed about 15 to like 17 different movies. It's just a lot going on right now. I like it. I love it. And I want some more of it. But as always, I am joined and returning my partner here, Mr. Don Fisher. How are you, man?
What's popping, Colonels? Look, man, Miami is undefeated, and it ain't always pretty, but we undefeated. Now, man, it's been like you said, we're in the thick or beginning the thick of award season, so we are consuming as much as possible. Sometimes the viewing sequences are crazy, because I mean I've gone from super intense to thrilling to gross to like Christianity, and it's just weird streamline of movies. It's and with our new kind of critics choice streaming platform, we get to kind of take in a lot more at a faster pace, and not have to kind of wait for screeners to come in. So there's definitely a lot for us to watch between now and voting in December, January.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're all like, I think we can all confidently say we're all gonna have 200 plus movies under our belts this year.
Yeah.
It's been a heavy year, man, for movies. It's been a lot.
Yeah, it's crazy. I consistently see people talking about, this has been a weak year for films. I'm like, has it though? There's been some great films. I will say this, that fresh coming off of AFI. I was hoping to be a little bit more enamored with some of the films that I saw out there. But I will say this, I left to go to AFI with the top four, and I returned from AFI with the same top four. So I definitely find that interesting. And over the last few weeks, like I said, I've consumed about 15 to 17 different movies. I will say a couple movies went into my top 10, don't get me wrong, but nothing is really, when I rewatched Dune Part 2 out in LA, it was just like, fuck, that's the movie. You know what I mean? Like, that's the movie. You know what I'm saying? And I cannot wait for everybody to see Gladiator 2. I got a sneak peek of that when I was in LA, and that was a bombshell. But that being said, it's been a lot, and is a lot. I do agree with you, because you're going like 1 minute I'm watching Sing Sing, the next minute I'm watching The Substance, next minute I'm like watching something else, and it's like, man, I need to calm down a little bit. I need to get some normalcy back in my life here. So like I turned on the new Netflix show, Time Cut. You know what I mean? And I was like, you know what? That wasn't bad. I actually enjoyed it. It wasn't terrible. And you know what? You know what's terrible? Max's fucking takes are terrible. Okay. I love Max. And Max, you're gonna come on the show. We gotta get you on the show, man. We gotta get you on the show so that we can argue about your terrible takes. We're not going to dive too deep into Emilia Perez today. That's probably going to be the focus of next week's podcast. But between now and then, I don't think we have any screeners, right? You mentioned, I think, because Heretic is the number one movie. There's a movie coming out next week, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So with that being the movie that's coming out next week, this is the focus for this week's episode. And I think Emilia Perez, and basically whatever Dom and I watch between now and next weekend. Because then I think there's like 5 screenings in like a 7 to 10 day window. I think there's like, so it's like Red One, then there's we got The Piano Lesson, we've got Maria. Oh, I already seen that already. But there's Maria, then there's Wicket and Gladiator 2. So it's just like a big chunk of movie after movie after movie after movie coming out. So we definitely have a lot to consume, and it's easier to consume at home sometimes, but some movies are, deserve to be on the big screen. Yeah. The one thing that I'm interested to see, man, I need to see The Brutalist. You want me to put that 3.5 hour movie in front of me? You better put it in front of me before I start voting, because otherwise you're not going to get any of my votes.
Yeah. That's one that I've been I've had on my like I gotta watch this list. I think I heard somebody talk about it the other day, and yeah, if it's a long one, and knowing that we have so much going on, better get to us quick.
Man, you better get to me fast because, like, if I could fit 2 movies in for that same time frame.
Yo,
It's an investment. It is. Honora is another movie that I want to save because I want to watch it. I know you saw it. I know you gave
yeah.
it some high praises. But they're the movie of the week this week. We have our one movie one of many movies that we're going to touch on this week in this week's episode. But let's go ahead and dive into this week's horror psychological thriller.
All right, all right, all right. Heretic, directed by Scott Beck, Brian Woods. We have two young missionaries become ensnared in a deadly game of cat and mouse when they knock on the door of the diabolical Mr. Reed. Trapped in his home, they must turn to their faith if they want to make it out alive. The film stars Hugh Grant, Sophie Thatcher, and Chloe East. I'll go first on this one. Um, this movie, since I saw the trailer, I think in the summer, I've been looking forward to this movie. Not only is it, a A24 drop, not only is it, it looks dark and interesting. It's something that I think about and talk about a lot with a lot of strangers, with a lot of my friends. A lot of people that know me knew that at one point I was really deep into philosophy. I studied it for like a hot minute. And then with philosophy comes theology. And this movie dives into a lot of that. Um, I this film sets it up perfectly with like these two seemingly innocent missionaries. There's clearly a difference. You have one who seems a little more naive and one who seems a little more astute, but you can tell that there's a little something edgy about her and not as maybe fully committed to the Mormon faith per se. um but I think what the film does the best is it builds this crazy tension throughout like the first like 45 to an hour. And it's all just conversation. But when you get to talking about people's faith, when you get to talking about religion in general, it gets touchy. And I think that's what builds this palpable tension as he's questioning what the girls believe in, and they're having a little bit of pushback at first, but then he clearly knows there's a line, and he has one that he can kind of overpower and one that he cannot. And then once it gets into this the real cat and mouse game, because it starts off very cerebral and it catches you off guard because there's certain little subtleties that you may miss that you don't remember until they touch back on them towards the end. um, and just to go into breaking down people, different religions, like all the popular ones, how they are similar, how are they different, and of course the big question is, or the big setup for Mr. Reed is he's found the one true faith. And so you're wondering, what is that faith? So that's one thing you're looking forward to. And then once we get into this, you know, maze of terror type of situation, things get really interesting. It touches on the Inferno of Dante a little bit. If you've read that, you'll kind of, if you know that going into it a little bit, it kind of gives you a really interesting look at what you're watching. Um, and it does. And I will say, me and Ricky had this conversation as it was over, and my mind changed just a little bit as we talked about the ending, because the film is very cerebral until like the last, I'll say 20 minutes. And it's kind of like it was like this unique thing, and then it turns into a movie. And the ending, you're gonna have your feelings with the ending. But I talked to someone else after the fact, shout out Brandon Vick, and he said something that I was kind of thinking, but he saw it too. And I was like, okay, maybe the ending is a little deeper than I expect. It still could be somewhat simplistic, but it could be deeper as well. I think it's one of those ones where it's kind of open to interpretation, possibly. But yeah, I think this is one of the better horror films in a year that I thought was going to be big for horror films. We've had so many titles, so many big actors. This is definitely one that I think is beating out a lot of the others because of it's just done in a very detail oriented, precise way. There's kind of no wasted movements. Every little thing is something. It matters, and it's a battle of wits, and it's a lot of fun. It's not necessarily scary. It's more uncomfortable. Like if you put yourself in the shoes of these two young ladies, what do you do when you're in a stranger's house and you can't get out? And he's intellectually uh, terrifying. This guy is like smile on his face, smell of blueberries in the air, and he's like, pick a door. What you want to do? So it's questioning your your beliefs, your disbeliefs, and and if you're a person like me who doesn't have like a specific religious home, you're kind of open to all these different things. It's like this thing like, oh, this someone is thinking the way that I've been thinking. And then if you're on the fence, you might be like, oh, I didn't think about that. So the movie has a lot to offer. And yeah, it's a lot. I think it's just as good as I expect it to be, which doesn't often happen. What are your thoughts?
So yeah, going into this film, I knew nothing about Heretic, whatever you want to call the damn thing. I knew nothing about it, and that was perfectly fine because I didn't see a trailer. I try not to do trailers. It's my favorite thing to do is not do trailers, just so I don't know what the hell anything is about. I just heard all the hype around the movie, and I was like, could this be as good as the hype? Most times it's not, but in this particular instance, it was worth the hype for like I don't know. Sorry to blow out a candle for. I don't know, a solid, I forget how long the movie was, maybe 2 hours, about 15 minutes too long, in my opinion. But for the most part, this film does a lot to write, right? I feel like Back in Woods really built this dark and twisted psychological thriller, more psychological thriller horror. There's so many different levels of horror that people forget about sometimes. No, this is not going to scare you and jump you out your bones or anything like that. But this is psychological horror. You know what I mean? There is a scary thing about psychological things that happen in life. So that it could have horror elements, no matter what you say. The introduction to Mr. Reed, aka Hugh Grant, brilliantly done. Every move in the first part of this film as you're getting to know Mr. Reed is calculated. It's a very calculated step by step as you're building the mysterious figure of what he is. You know there's more behind what meets the eye, and it's beautiful. And I do think that their introduction is as good as it gets to this character. I do think that there is a scene where they talk about iterations that I feel like is really just mind blowing. As you're watching it, you cannot help but be just engulfed into Hugh Grant's ability to capture your attention in the way that he did. I think Grant's performance is brilliant. Like I really loved it. I think that this is such a interesting portrayal and role for him, right? This is like this. You've never seen this man like this before. Never seen Hugh Grant like this. And I love that. I love when actors are willing to take that risk and are willing to jump in headfirst into a committed performance like this. He's Hugh Grant. He doesn't have to do stuff like this. And he did it. And I love that he did. My biggest issue with this entire film is the third act. You have me on the edge of your seat, buying everything being sold. Back in Woods just completely lose track. This is the second film that I watched in just there was two films that I watched in a matter of days that built up brilliant first, brilliant second acts, and then just don't know how to close the door to finish it. I feel like they tried to they tried to make a horror movie in the third act almost. You know what I mean? I feel like if you lean this conversation, you can have this conversation, you can lean into these conversations and you can have these psychological things going on, and it still doesn't, you don't have to get away from that in order to be shock and awe. We got the essence of what was going on, and you can still have this mental, and I'm not going to dive too into it, but you can have this mental control element of the film really capture your attention, yet you fell off the rails. And that's, to me, is the biggest problem, is because you have the opportunity of having a great movie, and I feel like it's just good because you could not connect the dots at the end. And that's my biggest problem. I do think that it's very much a good movie. I do think that there's elements of the cast and crew that is strong. I just feel like we're missing a great movie because they tried too much to make it something it didn't need to be. And that's my biggest problem with the movie. Outside of that, very good. Very good for like an hour and 20 minutes. And it just did not know what to do in the third act. And my biggest problem again is just them trying to make it something more than it needed to be. And I do understand why. I understand the attempt and all of that, but it just doesn't make it okay. It doesn't make it, the execution was
Right.
not there. The entire top to bottom thing didn't work for me. And that's where I struggled mightily trying to figure out how I wanted to rate it, because to me, I really love it. And then it's just like you knock it down quite a few pegs because you failed to connect those dots in the long run. So yeah, and that's a crazy thing because I felt the same way about Substance. You know what I mean? Substance, you built a film up, an incredible build, incredible. Like, I'm sitting here on the couch watching it with my wife, and she's just like invested, and I'm invested. And then at one point, it's just like I'm no longer invested. She's like, she even told me, she's like, I looked over, it was getting so stupid. And then she's like, I looked over and saw you on your phone. I was like, I didn't know, like, it just kept going on and on and on and on. I feel like at the end of the Heretic, it went on a little bit too long. It should have been like an hour 45, hour 35,
Yeah.
hour 40. It's a little too long, but you gotta, both films tell incredible 2-act stories, but just decide to make monumental letdowns in act 3. No matter how you look at the ending, I would be interested to see how people feel about Heretic, because it doesn't officially come out until Friday, but we're not
Yeah.
digging too deep in it. But
Yeah.
man, I was picking up what it was putting down for a hot
Yeah.
minute though.
I think that's the trouble, I think, with like stepping foot into the horror realm is when you're trying to do something other than like a slasher film or a creature feature, it's very hard to finish. Like I think that's why Jordan Peele is so good at it, because he knows how to finish. It is incredibly difficult. I mean, like, there's probably a lot of different routes that I mean, there is a lot of different routes that they could have taken with Heretic, but I'm sure they were like, do we want this to be like a more mainstream thing that we can capture at the end, or do we want to keep it like this open philosophical thing? The Substance, I think, is very similar, where it had a certain message, and then yeah, it eventually goes on way too long, and it's kind of like I get it, I get what you're trying to do, and then you know it kind of becomes a creature feature essentially. Yeah, it's but I will say, like, they I mean, there's been movies similar in execution, like Heretic, as far as like the small cast, dialogue heavy films where we get into a touchy topic and kind of go this back and forth battle of the brains. But with the Substance, the only movie that I think I can compare that to is like Titan, where you get this super crazy out of body experience where you're like, what the hell did I just witness happen? But I appreciate those things. But yeah, I felt the same way. I was like, it's a little long now. What are we doing? You could have skipped that scene, and could have probably. I mean, and it's one of those things where like the critic brain goes, of course, I understand you're trying to further uh show off and expose this thing, but whether it's your thought or this character, but then you have to go, but did I have to, or could I have let the audience make these assumptions themselves about this situation, this character, this ideal? Because, you know, audiences are smarter than people give them credit for, so they can interpret things and have conversations to make certain things what they want it to be. You know, kind of like Signs. I remember watching Signs and I thought like, oh, this movie is fantastic until we see the alien, because what was in my mind was a lot more crazy than what I was eventually shown. And then I was like, oh, it's not good anymore. Like I after like the first watch, I was like, I'm never probably gonna watch this movie again because you ruined my imagination with a very boring run of the mill alien figure. So yeah, I do think though. I mean, let's be real. We're in a very not. I don't even want to say divisive because that's we already know. But when it comes to like we've noticed in film and there's been like a another resurgence of an awakening. You know, we talked about Jesus Revolution before, and that kind of resurgence is kind of happening again. And then a movie like Heretic is it can be interesting to because as humans we question everything, and that's what this movie has done. It's like, but what about this? Have you thought about this? Because faith is driven on believing, but then when you are questioned with facts, like how where does that teeter? You know, what does that do to your faith? What does that do to your belief? So I think it's interesting, especially coming up the week of the election. Is it's gonna be interesting to see like the conversation around it, because that's always a big thing come election time. Is like the faith or um, mindset of our society. Um, and you know, they picked a good one. They picked uh, you know, the Church of Latter Day Saints, and that's really divisive right now. You know, it's all over TikTok, and there's the Hulu docu series or documentary. I don't know which one. And you had like the happy shiny people thing, where like Mormonism is popular for the wrong reasons right now. And you know, I was around it for 4 years of my life, not part of the church, but I lived in Utah, where like is their tent pole is posted up, and yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how they take it, and how people who are, you know, steadfast and strong in their faith kind of take this movie on.
Yeah, they spare no expense, right? You know what I mean? They kind of spare no expense of understanding and dissecting things that a lot of people have conversations about. And the like I said, the iterations thing was just one of the most captivating things I think I've seen
Yeah,
live
that was so good,
in a
dude.
long time. If you have the opportunity to catch Heretic, I do recommend checking it in theaters. You know what I mean? Definitely see it.
Yeah.
And speaking of what something that's in theaters right now is Emilia Perez. Very select theaters across the world, but if you have the opportunity to check it out, like I said, we're going to do a little bit more of an in-depth movie review of it next week. But Dom, give them a little bit of a teaser of your thoughts of Emilia Perez, man.
So I can say this with absolute certainty that this is the one of the most, and I say this with like the most respect and admiration. It's one of the most unique experiences I've ever witnessed. Um, okay, and I'll just put it real simple. Okay, cartel, lawyer, um, sex change, and um, you know, trying to be benevolent after a life of craziness. Um, and you know, you sprinkle in the musical aspect of it, and you have like one of the most like entertaining and like heartfelt. And I know that's gonna sound weird when when I say cartel, but like this movie has a lot of heart. It has a lot that it's trying to convey, and yeah, it's again, I've never seen anything like this. Like I was taken aback, blown away, because I'm sitting there like, how how did y'all how'd y'all put this together? Yo, okay, okay. Yeah, it's gonna make a lot of noise. It's gonna make a lot of noise.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely one of the most It's like I said, it's a film that I walked in. I knew literally nothing about.
Same.
I didn't watch the trailer. I highly recommend doing the same. I will say that if you're expecting like Selena Gomez just to blow your doors off of just like, oh my god, it's an acting showcase. It is an acting showcase, and it's definitely a challenging performance. And I definitely think it's interesting, but it's not going to be anything that you think it could potentially be.
Yo.
And that's the most captivating thing about the film. I think is I can't really explain it. I even wrote in my review about it. It's like a genreless film. Like you cannot put this
Yeah.
in a bubble. There's hints of a musical. There's hints of drama. There's hints of thrilling. There's hints of comedy. There's
Yo.
so many different things.
And you get to see, I feel like this is a rebirth of Zoe Saldana.
Oh
Like
man,
she has had like I mean, without people don't talk about it, but she's had like a great career. She's in a lot of great
100%.
films. And but as of late, everybody's been, Avatar and MCU. So this is like her like, remember my name. Put some respect on my name because I'm out here, and we see it again that she is one of the top actresses working right now.
Yeah, it's genuinely crazy because
Yeah,
it's like she's a talented actress. We've seen her in a million different things, and it's not to say that you can't give great performances in those type of things. We've talked that 1,000 times. We're not like
yeah,
saying that. However, this is something that is star breaking, like just mesmerizing, reminding us why you are as talented as you are, why you are why you're getting all those top dog damn perform roles is because you can do this, and you can see how comfortable and how authentic and how real and personal this role was for her. So I loved Emilia Perez a lot. Let's see here. Let's go with give me just a couple other films that you watched, just brief rundowns, maybe some thoughts on whether people should check them out.
let's see. So coming out this Friday, I just watched the best Christmas pageant ever. I'm not familiar with the book. I know a lot of people are. Um, like if you want to get in the holiday spirit, if you want to take your family, um, it's a cool movie for the fam. It is trying to be the next holiday classic, and it's kind of evident in that. And I don't know how much really I can say because I didn't have like an embargo date or whatnot. Uh, but it's one for the family. I'll say that it's one to take the family to if you want to get in that holiday spirit. And what else have I watched? Honora. I really enjoyed this film. Now it is a wild ride. This is not a movie to take your parents to, unless your parents are like, y'all just like that. Y'all got that kind of relationship because there's a lot of drugs, there's a lot of sex, there's a lot of nudity. But beyond that, you have this crazy, chase around New York and a star making performance by Mikey Madison. I think I'm sure people have heard the talk, but it's legit. This is like a breakout performance, and she makes the movie. What else have I watched? Um, oh, I did watch that Time Cut on Netflix. It's cool. The only thing is, it is very reminiscent of Totally Killer on Prime. I mean, they're essentially the same movie, just different kind of dynamics One's more of a friend dynamic. One was like the family dynamic. What else did I watch this week? I've been trying to catch up on, Agatha All Along, which is a great show. It's really good. I know that they just had the finale. I haven't watched the last the 2 episode finale, but the rest of the show has been good. And the Outrun, me and Rick were talking beforehand. I watched half of it because the audio that I have is a little weird, but Saoirse Ronan normally doesn't pick bad roles, and she may not be like the household name that she probably deserves to be, but she can act her ass off. And I know she's in. There's another movie she's in, right? Like that's coming out
Blitz.
soon. Blitz, yeah. And I've heard she's good in that too. So like, she's always every time she's in a movie, she's in some kind of award contention. And I think that's really all that at least that I have written down. I've probably put some on my letterbox that I haven't put in my notes, but yeah, I've been busy, but yeah, and I'm playing catch up, and then of course it was Halloween. I had to get, my my tried and true horror films in for the holidays because that's what I'm about. I'm about that horror life, and
It's about that horror life. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. Yeah.
Oh, and then Woman of the Hour. I watched that twice
what a
now.
banger, dude.
Yeah.
That was way better than I thought it was gonna be.
Hey, Anna Kendrick, man. I know, we used to seeing her in like kind of the lighthearted stuff, but as the past like 2-3 years, she's been testing the waters and doing like real heavy drama type stuff, and she's good at it.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, I was at AFI, saw a lot of films, won't bore you with everything. I'll just run it down real quick. I did see while I was out there, did see Gladiator 2, as I mentioned earlier. I watched The Shrouds, not for me. Here, the Tom Hanks movie that just released in theaters, not for me. God, it was awful. Emilia Perez, we talked about. Unstoppable.
Oh, yeah.
It was good.
Yeah.
Long, typical sports movie.
Yeah. It's just, I think the story of it is just crazy that this took place, but there's nothing like super like groundbreaking.
Yeah, Gerald Jerome does give a great performance in it though.
Yeah.
I watched Oh Canada, Paul Schrader's movie. I actually really liked that quite a bit. Conclave, was not a fan, thought it was okay. Maria, I liked it. I wished I loved it. Juror number 2, actually pretty solid movie. The Summer Book was terrible. Sing Sing, I thought was fine. Coleman Domingo's amazing though. Substance we talked about, which was very, very good until it wasn't. And one of my favorite movies of the year is called The Order. By the way, Dom, you have that on your CCA app. You need to watch it.
Good.
It's a fantastic movie. It's about white supremacists, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, that's the one with
Jude Law, Nicholas Hoult.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite movies of the year. I think it's probably my favorite action movie of the year. That's not like Dune. You know what I mean? Not Dune or Gladiator.
Right.
I didn't think about that when I wrote my review. I did say it's the best action movie of the year. Didn't think about Dune. Sorry, Dune. Or Gladiator 2, but I haven't wrote my review for that yet. But that being said, The Order is so good. It's so good.
I remember looking at the trailer and I was like, this looks really interesting.
It's amazing. Highly recommend watching that on your next list. It does hit theaters December 6th. Yeah. So be sure to check it out. If you can catch it in the theater, I highly recommend it because I wish I would have, to be honest with you. I want to watch it again, but I know right now, like I can't because I got so much other shit to watch, but I definitely have it on my radar. Definitely needs to be on your radar, Dom. Hopefully we can talk about it soon. We'll go in more depth a bit, but it's by far one of the better movies of the year. Great acting, great storytelling, and loved it. But all right, folks, before we go, I am not going to let Dom off the hook. We introduced a new segment a couple weeks ago, and I was like, you know what? I'm just not gonna I'm not gonna not let it be. You know what I mean? Like I was, we're gonna have to bring it back. And I figured we are not there yet, but we're in the theme of Halloween. We did the Halloween episode where we talked about movies, but I figured what better way to do this than make them blind rank Halloween candy. You know what I mean? Like I figured Halloween candy. You know what I mean? Like we're definitely gonna put the feet to the fire here today. But I figured I wanted to go kind of a candy bar-ish with this week's. So again, Dom has absolutely no clue what the hell I'm about to throw his way, but I'm very excited to throw a couple wrenches in his plan and maybe throw something near the top that he didn't expect it to. But all right, let's see here. Can I make this a little bit better looking here for the people at home? All right. So again, what the name of the game here is this. I'm going to list something off. Dom has to rank it blindly, and then he has to be satisfied with his list because there's no takebacks here. All right. This is the rules. He can live with it. All right. We're going to start off with something hard. Okay. It's a holiday season, pumpkins. I figure we're going to start off with the pumpkin Reese's.
I had a feeling you were going to say, as soon as you said pumpkin, I was like, fuck. Oh, man.
And I won't say to everybody at home while he's conjuring where he's going to put this, the pumpkin Reese's, the Christmas trees and the Easter, the eggs, they all taste different from the regular peanut butter cup. I don't care what you say. It's different.
Yeah. I'm going to,
It's delicious though too.
Because I don't know what else is gonna. I can, you know what? I want to put it number one. But I feel like you can't put the first thing number one, so I'm gonna put it at number 2.
All right, pumpkin Reese's. I hope he regrets this, guys. All right. Next up, all right. He put the pumpkin Reese's at number 2 here. We are going to go with Almond Joy.
Oh, that's an easy one for me. Number 6.
Do you like Almond Joys?
I'm not. I mean, I don't dislike them. It's just not something that I gravitate towards first. That's the candy. All the good candy is gone, and then that's all that's left, and I'll eat it, I guess.
Exactly. I'm the same way. They're not very appetizing to me either. So, but all right. So I had to throw a little bit of curveball, but we're gonna go peanut M&Ms.
That's a solid one.
Really,
we'll put that at we'll put that at 3.
The downside of me doing this right here, guys, with everybody at home, I really don't know. Yes, I've been to the movies with Dom 1,000 times. I really don't know like what his favorite candy is. So I just threw like the 6 things that came into my mind at first. But all right, solid list so far. This would probably be my list minus probably pumpkin Reese's. But let's see here. We're gonna go with the old-fashioned Hershey bar.
I'm not a like plain chocolate person. I need like some peanut butter, some nougat, something. So I'm gonna put that at 5.
All right, I like it. Hershey.
Now, if this was my stepson, like 2 years ago, he'd have put that number 1. That's all he wanted to eat, candy wise.
I mean, sometimes you can't go wrong. You know what I mean? Like with you can't go wrong sometimes. All right, I'm gonna go with the next pick of Snickers.
Well, see, damn it. This is gonna fuck my shit up because I already know number 1's gonna end up being some fuck shit. Damn, you know what? I can't. I gotta be truthful to myself though. I'll put it at 4.
All right, Snickers. All right. No, I definitely didn't mess with you here. I do think this is a good one. I think it's not a terrible number 1. So my final one is the old-fashioned very 3 Musketeers.
Okay, that's okay. I mean, I wouldn't put it number 1. I think if I looking at the list now, I would probably want to bump the Reese's up and the M&Ms and put them 3 Musketeers at 4 and Snickers at 3.
Yeah,
but that ain't the way the game works.
Again, this is why I like doing this to Dom. Every week, I'm going to bring something new to the table. He has no clue what the hell I'm going to talk about.
I'm just glad you didn't put like one, that weird like peanut butter taffy thing. Like it always comes in like the plain orange wrapper and the plain black wrapper. You're like, who eats this?
So it's funny that you say that because I always forget, like I do forget how old you are. So like I didn't want to date myself with certain things when I went trick or treating. So I was like, I don't remember what exactly how old you. I know you're like around my age, but I was kind of worried about that. But yeah, it's definitely like I was like, let me just go things that people at home are gonna at least know as well. So I do think it's a hot solid list. I would probably do the same. I'd probably put Three Musketeers at 3, bump the other 2 up, and then it'd probably be my list. I like the Hershey bar though. Almond Joys I don't really like at all. So
And surprisingly, most people don't like it, but I'm a big fan of candy corn. My
me
wife
too.
brought me some home today. She went to the
I like
store
the
and was like,
pumpkins too. Pumpkins are
"Yeah,
good. Pumpkins are good.
yeah." She hates them.
I almost put candy corn on this list, but I didn't because I was like, I was going full chocolate here. Full
Yeah,
chocolate
yeah,
here.
yeah.
So but yeah. All right, folks, that is it for this week's episode of the Popcorn People podcast. But there's one thing that I did not forget, folks. We leave each and every week's episode with a nice little kind word from my co-host, Mr. Dom Fisher. Dom, the floor is yours. You have 1 minute starting now.
So we know what this week is. I know I've mentioned it before, and I don't care. I do care, but I don't pry into who you're voting for, what you stand for, what your politics are. All I ask, all I really demand, I need this to be a thing. Just be kind to each other, man. Like it's at the end of the day, when you really think about it, these people don't care about us, man. Like they are the top of the top, looking down on us from an ivory tower and laughing at us as we scurry and hurt each other because one of us likes blue and the other one likes red. So you know you got to go to work the next day with people who think differently, who feel differently. You got to go to your church, you got to go to the grocery store. That's just part of our life. We're all different, we all feel different, think different, believe different things. So just be nice to each other, man. It's life is hard enough. Life is short. We have a finite amount of time here. So like go click your go put your ballot in, go vote for you're gonna vote for, and then just keep it pushing. Let's go back to the days again where we didn't talk about this all the time. So we can laugh at people falling down and hurting themselves because that's hilarious. Yeah. So like again, be kind to each other and love thy neighbor. You feel me? I'm not even the religious one. Love thy neighbor. Feel me? Like it's not that hard. Even if you don't know him, yo, what's good, homie? I appreciate you. You know what I'm saying? You appreciate them, they appreciate you, and we keep it peaceful. That's it.
We'll be back next week.
Boom.